everyone, and oh shit, my cameras are all fucked up. That's fantastic. Yeah, off to a great start.
They are definitely fucked. I can see it.
Stand by, everybody. We will be right back. Hello, everyone, and we're actually working this time, I think. Maybe? Possibly? Hello?
Maybe.
Are we
definitely not in beta anymore?
Are we... Dude, we're back in beta at this point. Jesus. Okay.
Shit happens from time to time. It's not that big a deal.
So a little peel back behind the curtain. Mike, make sure you cut this from the audio side because they don't need to hear any of this. Little peel back behind the curtain. I was trying to record some footage of Final Fantasy VII Rebirth over the weekend and noticed that OBS wasn't capturing in HDR, and the game footage looked awful compared to what I was playing when I could get to play it because crashes. So Mike helped me resolve that, but it also somehow broke the streaming. That's why we're a little bit late. And you might be wondering, why the fuck are we here when we said last episode was our last episode? Well, turns out we didn't do our research that well.
Oh, brother, this guy stinks!
Actually, Facebook requires you to have 100 followers on your page before you're allowed to go live over there. And Mike didn't know that. I had no idea because I haven't used Facebook since 2020.
Same goes for me.
How many times do we have to teach you this lesson, old man?
Yeah, so we were completely caught off guard. So all of this is to say that if you're watching us, if you're listening to us, if you're hearing us, please head over to our new Facebook page and give us a follow there so we can start streaming over there, which is ultimately going to be better, I guess, potentially.
So, Russ.
Yeah.
Russ, are you watching us live at the moment?
I am. Why? Is something wrong?
Because for me, all I'm seeing is it says CoinDrop Pod, and there's a green line at the bottom. I'm not seeing shit else.
Well, that's interesting because I'm seeing the feed right now.
Strange. Well, maybe it's a fuck up on my side. I don't know.
Yeah. Mike, you're going to have a little bit of editing work to do on the audio side of this, buddy. You're going to have to splice some stuff here. I'm sorry. It's just going to happen that way. Any rate, we're here. Let's go ahead and start the show because, we did our intro and things like that. So, audio side starts now.
Finally!
Enjoy all that preamble for you, video. God damn it. Am I going to talk today? I'm just giving Mike more memes. That's what I'm doing here. I'm giving him more shit to make fun of us for.
Yeah, boy.
Okay. This is episode 85. Tim and I are back on Twitch still because we ran into some hiccups with Facebook. So if you're hearing this, please head over to our Facebook page, facebook.com/CoinDropVets. We're trying to get enough followers over there that we can start streaming there because apparently there is now a requirement of at least 100 over there.
Yep. Makes me wish we had started a page a long time ago.
Yeah, I kind of agree. But we will be sharing more content over there. I think I'll probably end up posting articles from other industries over there that I find interesting, which will be few and far between that are actually worth reading because most other places are kind of trash, in my opinion.
Yeah. No, I fully agree with you. I'll be posting some stuff over there, probably some random memes now and again, but now and again is more few and far between.
There you go. Few and far between. We are going to have some big changes coming up this year. There's a lot of stuff in the works, a lot of moving parts, and honestly, 2025 is already starting off as a really great year for CoinDrop, and I'm really excited for what's to come around the bend and for you guys to see some of the big stuff we have in the works for you. So that being said, let's talk about our stream, right? Because we're here, and that's a little bit confusing because we spent all this time saying we weren't going to be here. We're still sticking to our announced schedule of doing one live stream episode a month. That is this month, February. This is our live stream for the month. We will be doing a community live stream on the 22nd of this month where Mike, Tim, and I will all be playing a game that you guys voted on us to play. There are some caveats here. It will be a poll posted on our Facebook page for you guys to vote on which game it is. Each one of us picked a game we would like to play, and whichever one gets the most votes, that's the game we play during the community event where we can hang out and play games with you, chat with you, whatever you guys want to do. That's the goal. Now, unless we get 100 followers by that time, that event will be happening here on Twitch. If we do get 100 followers on Facebook by that point, I'll probably make a quick brief stream here that you guys can all see and be aware of. Put an announcement up on the Facebook page, put an announcement up on our Discord. Yeah, put it up everywhere and let you guys know that we will be doing it over there if that happens. Otherwise, plan for it to be here at the normal time. I know we're a little bit behind this time, but you know, that's the way things go. Yeah, I think that's all I got for housekeeping. Tim, do you have anything to add for housekeeping?
No, I'm just, we're making changes. We're trying to move over there. If you can, get the word out. Like, share, subscribe, all that fun stuff. Help us get over there because that's going to help us get bigger faster, which is going to be better for you guys because we're going to be able to give you more sooner.
Yeah.
With that said, I have tried in the past to give away free games, and this is probably even more difficult to give away, but I'm going to try anyways. I have a free copy of Horizon Call of the Mountain for PSVR 2.
Ooh.
If you want it, let me know, because I have a free copy. It's a fantastic game. I played it, and it's fucking good. Like, my face was lit up when I was playing it earlier, I'm telling you.
If you want it, you got to join the Discord and you've got to like us on Facebook. That's minimum requirements. I'm going to put that out there since he did not. Okay, well, Tim, how was your week, man? Mine was chaos, as always. How about you?
Yeah. So, I mean, mine's basically the same as last week. Pretty basic white bitch week.
Part 2, Electric Boogaloo.
Yeah, part 2. Yeah. This next week will be my last week at where I'm at currently, and I don't know what that means for me. I don't know if that means I'm going to go to a different place with the same company, or if I'm going to be laid off and go to a different company. My understanding is I'll more than likely stay because I'm liked. That's good. But my life is kind of in the we'll see. Well.
That's life as a union worker, right?
Yes, that's exactly what it is.
That always working yourself out of a job bullshit, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about some games. We've got some industry news. We've got not a whole lot of games to talk about. We do have one tonight, which surprisingly, Tim, believe this or not, the game we're going to be talking about tonight, we have never made its own topic. It's always been either in Quickfire or it's been included in other things. I didn't have a folder for it. I have a folder in my computer for every single topic we've ever done since we started this podcast. I didn't have a folder for it. We've never. Well, I can't tell you now. It's a spoiler. Come on.
Spoiler for them and for me.
Yeah, apparently. We talked about this, but all right.
Well, I mean, I don't know what topics you keep folders for. Hell, anyways.
Yeah. The game we're talking about tonight at the end for our third topic for tonight. Anyways, to tease our slow attack news, as we're now calling it for our Patreon side, we're going to be talking about some, unfortunately, more developments with Microsoft, where it leaves us shaking our heads again, constantly going, what the fuck are these people thinking? I just beyond me at this point. I don't get it, and I'm kind of tired of talking about it. But it's one of those things when people continue to do stupid stuff that's so stupid you just can't help but be like, why are you this stupid? And Microsoft continues to do that on a weekly basis. So I feel like we have to talk about it. So if you want to hear about what that is, because I'm being kind of cagey, obviously that's our paid side. Slow Attack News is our paid side over on Patreon at patreon.com/CoinDrop pod, where you can get the extra topic as well as upcoming games for the week and some other perks depending on what level you subscribe at. So let's talk about our first topic for the night. Sony has some not so great things going on. They're trying, but why don't you fill them in here, Tim? Why don't you take this over? They're doing some stuff. They're fixing some things. Some bad things have happened to them. It's all over the map for them right now.
It really is. That's probably honestly the best way to put it. Because man, they really, really are all over the place. Okay, so I'm going to start it off with the small. They have officially, in my opinion, this is stupid. I get why they're doing it, but I think it's stupid. I think they should have stuck to their guns. Because, anyways, they have admitted defeat. They are removing the PlayStation Network requirement on PC. They're saying that if you want to play their games on PC, you don't have to have a PlayStation Network account. However, they are incentivizing those that choose to do so with bonuses for, if you play the game, you can basically unlock extras. They might be costumes, or there might be characters, there might be weapons, whatever it may be. the point is they've heard the feedback. The feedback has been overwhelmingly negative about the requirement of the PlayStation Network account,
which is insane to me.
Stupid.
Yeah,
literally everyone else requires it. Literally everyone else.
Yep. Yeah.
Literally.
Yeah.
There's not a single other person that doesn't require it.
Yeah.
But apparently it's bad if Sony does it. I don't know. It's so weird.
It's very strange.
So
I don't get the backlash on it. I don't understand it at all.
I mean, I look at the industry, and I see so many people say that the majority of the feedback for Sony online is positive, and so positive, like fanboy level of positive. That doesn't matter what they do. It's gold. Even if it's shit, it's gold. But you then see like minor things like this, in my opinion, minor things where you make a free account. You go email.com/here's my password. I got an account. I'm done. I don't have to think about it ever again.
Yeah,
and everyone blows up like it's the end of the world. I don't get it. I don't know. I don't care.
As far as integration goes too, like EA has definitely been the worst with it. They've gone through three different launchers at this point, and you guys are mad that you got to make a Sony account that's been the same Sony account since what 2006?
PlayStation 3?
Yeah, 2006,
something like that.
Yeah,
I think the PS3 launched in 2007.
Okay,
and the launcher, they didn't have an online thing until shortly after. At least trophies were after.
Yeah.
So you're probably right. 2007.
Like it's not like they've made EA Origin, EA Pass, EA Access, EA
and Ubisoft and Konami and Rockstar,
like
and
everybody
so
does this. I don't understand the absolute rage over Sony doing it. I don't get it
either. Now, I will fully support the fact that they released it in X number of countries, and then when they finally released it, meaning Helldivers, they released it in so many countries, and then when they finally added this requirement, they removed it from a lot of countries. It was like close to 100, and like that's stupid. That's extra stupid. So I fully understand those people's anger. Yeah. Because suddenly they couldn't play it anymore because PlayStation Network isn't required or isn't available in those countries. 100% understand that.
Mm-hmm. But why the hell are y'all in America mad about this?
Or Europe or Russia or most countries in the world. Most. I mean, those 100 countries are like the when I say no name, I mean like South Africa, where people are struggling to find food. Yeah. I mean, I'm talking really small countries, but there's a few other countries where their GDP is so volatile that that's the reason why Sony doesn't do it. But guess what? Neither does Xbox, neither does Konami, neither does Rockstar, etc. and so on. Right. Anyways, whatever.
I do agree. I do agree that I like the idea of it being optional, and for those that want to do it, getting a benefit from it. I think that's a fantastic idea, and in my opinion, that should have been the idea to begin with. But I get why, again, from a numbers side with Sony, I get why they wanted to require it, because it also makes their numbers look better, right? It's how Microsoft is able to go, we've got 500 million daily, or whatever the fuck they say. Like, it's bullshit, but at the same time, I get why Sony was requiring it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's not only just numbers, it's also they can add additional security to their games and their networks and everything else.
Well, why would we want that, Tim? We don't want to play on a secured network where we're safe and people can't hack our computers by just going through the IPs of our network that's connected to their servers. Why would we want that? We don't want people to not be able to dox us and find out all of our critical information and data and steal it all. Why would we want that?
If we're ever successful enough, we'll have to legitimately concern ourselves with.
We will be getting... There's, not to get too far off topic on my Tim talk here, there is a streamer I'm a big fan of. Yeah, we're picking that up, buddy. It's a thing now.
I'm okay with it.
There's a streamer I'm a big fan of. He's also a dev. His name is Pirate Software, and he talked about how when he got really popular and how big he's gotten, he actually had to go to his bank and tell them, unless I'm here in person, do not authorize anything ever, because there's so much of his face and his voice on the internet that anybody with any level of skill that doxed him and found out where he banks could very easily transfer all of his money out of his account with his voice. So if something like that ever happens, I will be taking a lot of pages out of Pirate Software's book.
Oh yeah. To hijack your Tim talk, which is my me talk, but I actually saw a very similar video. It wasn't banking information, but it was basically the same thing. More or less, they said that they got so popular that they had to then protect themselves by removing basically all of their everything. And, anyways, cool stuff.
Yeah.
Cool, kind of terrifying. Yes.
Yes.
Moving on from there. Last week, I mentioned that Final Fantasy VII Rebirth had been pirated 10 times more than its seeming purchase amount. And, Sony decided to release Spider-Man 2 on PC. And, it actually turns out that they had almost the same level of metrics. But although it does seem actually kind of worse than Final Fantasy VII's Rebirth, I think it was closer to like 15 times pirated. And this is from one source.
Wow.
One pirating source.
Wow.
15 times more than it's sold on Steam. And that's not good. And with that bit of news, so this I wasn't able to confirm one way or another because I tried. I couldn't figure it out 100%. However, the news came out immediately after that Spider-Man 2 had been pirated beyond belief. Gran Turismo 7's PC port was canceled almost immediately after. And then they also confirmed that Bloodborne, I'm sorry for you PC developers or PC gamers because this game is phenomenal, but the Bloodborne has been confirmed not to be in the works with for PC. And so that sucks, but
I could have swore there was something about the code for that game, that it was lost or the people that built it there was something about the code that made it difficult to port, if I remember correctly. I could be completely wrong and misconflating this with another game, but
I've heard that for a number of games, but I don't think Bloodborne is one of those.
Got it.
Those
okay.
For me, okay. my particular informational set. So like with that said, when it comes to Gran Turismo and Spider-Man, I mean, if you look at every single game that PlayStation has released on PC, Steam or Epic or whatever, literally since the beginning, every single title has gotten less and less players, except for Helldivers. Helldivers is the one shining gem among them. They've gotten less and less players. Huh?
I've got some thoughts on that, but I'll go ahead and finish. Yeah.
Well, so they've gotten less and less players, and although they did just remove their PlayStation Network requirement, I honestly don't think that's the main reason. I really don't. And it's honestly a very convoluted topic that I could spend the whole hour talking about.
Yeah.
I won't. And so it makes me wonder if their new direction under Sony is going to be, or not new direction, new management under Sony is going to be a major shift for them. And that's something that we're going to be talking on the, I'm going to say the slow attack
yep.
side of things. Mm-hmm. Because it's something that we can talk about for a while, and I don't want to spend too much time on it. So the last thing I have to say on Sony's side of things is they have announced over this last week that they are getting rid of the PlayStation 4 side of the PlayStation Plus games moving forward. Basically, if you have a PlayStation Plus account, you're going to be getting PlayStation 5 content. They said there might be the occasional PS4 game here and there because they don't want to leave everyone out. There's 100 and I don't remember how many PS4s have sold. I think it's like 150, something like that. I could be wrong, and I could be conflating that with Switch sales, but either way, they've got a fair number.
There's a lot.
Yeah, there's a lot. And they don't want to leave them out entirely, but ultimately, we're 4 years into the gen, and it's just, I mean, they got to incentivize people to buy the new console eventually, right?
Right.
So that sucks for people that are not on the current gen 4 years in, but that's just where we're at.
So I want to talk kind of about the piracy thing, because I said some stuff. I've got a bit of a hot take on the piracy thing, specifically when it comes to Sony games. Now, I will never condone piracy, but every single game that Sony has ported, well, yes,
I have to give you a hard time.
I know. Every single game Sony has ported since they started porting games to PC, other than Ghost of Tsushima, in my experience, has suffered significant performance or bugs or crashes on every single title they have ported to the PC. And I've bought most of them.
Before you continue, does that include third party, like the Final Fantasies?
Yes.
So can you remove those, and does anything change?
What do you mean? Remove them from...
every single PlayStation game that's been released.
Every single one that's
Final
been ported
Fantasy
to
is in
PC.
PlayStation, right?
Right, but
we're talking Ghost of Tsushima, we're talking The Last of Us, we're talking Days Gone, titles like that.
Sure, but technically Final Fantasy is a Sony exclusive. So while it's not an in-house designed game, it is a Sony title. So it still falls into that metric, in my opinion.
That's what I'm saying.
Okay.
If you remove third party and
got you. Yes.
Second party, if you remove those,
yes,
does that statement stand?
Yes, because Horizon had issues. Okay. Horizon 2 had issues. Last of Us had issues. God of War, I think, was one of the few that didn't, but I'm not sure. I didn't play Ragnarok yet, so I don't know. But the majority are. So let me go back. Not every single game. The majority of what I have bought and I have played has had some level of issue, to the point where like its frame rate was crap, it just bad performance, bad optimization, constant crashing, whatever the case is. So while Spider-Man 2, I have no idea how well it plays on PC. I have no idea if there's anybody experiencing issues, but what I can tell you personally is I have been trying to play Final Fantasy VII Rebirth since it launched on PC a week ago, and there has been no announcement, no news on a patch to fix the literally game-breaking crashes that I've been experiencing, anywhere from 30 minutes of gameplay to 5 minutes of gameplay to 3 hours into gameplay. There is no rhyme or reason to when it crashes or why it crashes, and everybody's pissed off about it that's suffering from it, and there has been zero communication from Sony or Square Enix or anybody as to what the patch or when it's coming. Granted, I assume it's coming.
Can I pose a solution?
Sure.
Buy an NVIDIA card.
No. Because I don't think that. So here's the thing. I don't think that's the issue. From the research that I was doing, no. Because that's what I thought for a while. I don't think that's the issue though. From the research I just recently did, someone might have found a fix. I'm not going to bother testing it because I've already uninstalled the game, and I'm waiting until they actually patch the damn thing to bother to reinstall it.
Okay. That's rough.
From
that you have to go to that levels.
Yeah. From what I've found, it seems to be the fact that they're running off of the wrong DLL files for M.2 storage, and that it's actually an issue with how it's writing to the M.2s because they're using out-of-date DLL files, and you can manually go in and update those. And everybody that said that they were having the crashes, not necessarily the exact crashes I'm having because they don't post any actual information on their crashes, have said that updating those, going in and manually finding those files online, downloading them, extracting them, and putting them in the game files has resolved this crash. So it seems to me like this is a simple fix, and it isn't GPU, it isn't CPU, it's not DirectX. It's literally they just used the wrong DLL files and haven't bothered to push a patch for it, which is insane.
So it's effectively, I want to make a video game versus I've been making video games my whole life. It's an amateur level fix.
Yes, that's what it seems like. And again, I don't know if that's going to fix my issue, but everyone that I saw in this comment chain on Steam that had said they did this fix, it resolved their issues. So every single person, so pissed off on that. Now, going back to Spider-Man, I said, I think on the last episode, I have pirated games before. I think we all have it once at one point in our life, right? When it comes to Sony games, I'm not so opposed to pirating the fucking game because I can't trust that they're going to release a solid product on day one. That being said,
can you trust anyone too these days?
Capcom. When's the last bad Capcom game? Yeah, like there's few. Kojima's probably another good one, right?
Yeah.
There's a couple of them out there, but yes, there are some that it's
extremely rare.
It's rare. Getting more and more rare, and it's frustrating. But If Sony's not going to go through the steps of getting de novo or any kind of anti-piracy thing, that's on them. That's their choice, whatever. They're going to have to just accept that these games are going to be pirated. And personally, the way I approach it, I spent $60 on a game I can't return now. And I won't get to play it, even though I really want to. And I'm probably not going to play it for a long time because Kingdom Come Deliverance comes out in 3 days. And you best believe I'm getting on that.
That's only one game that releases in a couple of days.
Yes, right?
Fuck, February stacked.
The people that are pirating Spider-Man, I'm actually kind of curious to see how their sales go on PC, because if it was me, I would pirate the game, and I haven't yet. I'm probably not going to because I've got too many other fucking games. I would pirate the game before I bought it and made sure that my system ran it without any issues, and then go and buy the game. That's how I would approach it.
Let me ask you.
I don't know if that's everybody else's approach.
Well, let me ask you. So, what about day and date games such as Helldivers 2? Has that worked well?
Yeah. I didn't play it day and date, but I also didn't see that there were a lot of issues. And I think part of that comes back to it was built as a multi-platform game. It wasn't ported.
Well, yeah. But see, that's my point. So Helldivers 2 was built from the ground up for PC and PlayStation at the same time.
Right.
They were meant to be cross-platform, and it doesn't matter where you play, you can play together.
Yep.
Spider-Man was built for PC, and so was all the other games that have been ported over the years. But they were built for PlayStation in the first place. But since they're not online games, I hate to say this, especially coming from Sony, because they do such a good job on the PlayStation side of things. Effectively, they don't care.
I don't know.
Broke.
Here's the thing.
Like,
I don't know that
it's not necessarily. It's not that they don't care. It's that it's not as big of a deal because it's releasing, a year plus later. That if it is broke, we'll fix it later. And that's really weird because it's so different from their PlayStation side.
Yeah, I don't know what their thought process, but literally every single day this week, every work day of this week, I Googled news about Final Fantasy VII crashes on PCs. News on Final Fantasy VII crashes PC. Final Fantasy VII PC still crash. Nothing from Square Enix or Sony ever at any point was mentioned anywhere that they were addressing the issue, that they acknowledged the issue. There was nothing. And for so many people to be reporting it, that you can Google it and there's tons of people talking about it. It's really bizarre that there's been nothing and absolute silence. And it's just...
Let's see.
Yeah.
We got to be fair to Sony here. That's a Square Enix problem, not a Sony problem. But
right.
Either way,
yeah.
The fact that they're supposed to be moving, Square Enix has said they're aggressively, moving towards a multi-platform strategy. If that's the fact, then they need to address PC issues.
Yeah. And
end of story.
Yeah. Again, this is Ghost of Tsushima is the only game recently from a Sony first, second, or third party, however you want to cut it, that's been ported to PC that has not had game-breaking issues on it day and date for me. Other than Helldivers, which was built as a multi-platform game, the only port that has worked well day and date was Ghost of Tsushima, in my experience. And so I can understand why people are pirating the game, because if they're like me and they're burned out from buying Sony games that have ran like shit, you don't want to invest that money not knowing whether or not the game's going to run on your hardware. I really want to play fucking Final Fantasy Rebirth. I don't even care about writing my first impressions review at this point. I want to play the fucking game, and I can't play the fucking game. So that's my soapbox, I guess.
Yeah. Well, I believe, talking about broken games, Dragon Age Veilguard broke Bioware in a bad way.
Yeah.
Effectively, the way I've worded it is they have basically been internally decimated. Yes, they immediately abandoned Dragon Age Veilguard for the new Mass Effect. But also, there's been a ridiculous amount of restructuring at the studio, and it's come out over the last week, I think actually over the last 3 days, that everyone, all of the lead writers for Dragon Age Veilguard, all of them, gone.
Yep.
They've been axed.
Yep.
And I mean, with what we've been talking about the past few weeks with Dragon Age, just for the woes of how well it, or rather, how unwell, poorly it's sold. There's reason. I mean, let me put it into perspective. It is currently on sale for $25 at GameStop at the moment, and even still, I'm like, do I want to spend $25 on this? No, and that's my point. I've asked several people, and not just you guys, and even they have said no.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that's crazy.
Yeah.
It's a $70 game. It's on sale for $25, and even still, I'm like, probably not. If it was $15, I don't think I would think too much about it.
But yeah,
That's the problem. That alone is the problem. I don't even care if it was $60. I still would struggle to buy it for just under half off because of what the developers did to it, right? They've decimated what Dragon Age is. We've talked about this enough, and we don't really need to go deeply into it. And so because of that, even EA has noticed. And it makes you wonder, and I'm not going to go into culture wars and any of that stuff, but supposedly Mass Effect is being worked on by a core team of people that are veterans of the Mass Effect franchise, and they worked on the whole trilogy.
It sounds good on paper, but is it the truth?
Yeah.
Right? Like,
yes.
The way that announcement was phrased too could very easily be twisted to be a completely different thing. Right? That worked on the franchise. Okay, so are they giving lead positions to people who did the UI?
Yeah, exactly.
They were veterans of the Mass Effect franchise. Are they giving writing positions to the people that did voice acting? Like, there's so many.
Or these veterans are QA testers, for all we know. Obviously, that's hugely, but still, that's the point.
It's what they don't say that's as important as what they do say.
Yes.
Yeah. And honestly, like, the worst part of all of this is Bioware hasn't been the same Bioware for a long time, since probably before Anthem. Yeah, since right about Anthem. A lot of people left, got axed, whatever the case is. But we talked about this with Ubisoft and with EA, that Dragon Age needed to be a hit for them. That needed to be their grand slam, because they killed Anthem, which was also a flop, which they could have made better. And they did this, and now they're shifting gears directly into Mass Effect, laid off, I think, pretty much everyone that was at all involved with Veilguard, and and are back to Mass Effect. And I gotta be honest, I'm questioning whether or not BioWare is going to be allowed to finish that project. I think EA's questioning whether or not they're going to be allowed to finish that project. Hell, even started. Have they even started it? Like,
yes. We know they've at least started the game, not just because of that first
crappy 10-second teaser trailer of a walk down a hallway.
Not just because of that, but because we know they've said enough to say that they're at least working on it. I agree with you. I think it's sort of dubious at the moment that will they be allowed to finish it. So we did say that Dragon Age is it's either the nail in the coffin or it's what saves them. Mm-hmm. And I think it's probably fair to say that maybe that was a little too soon to say, because they have enough history behind them as a studio, even if it's entirely new people, to give them the benefit of the doubt, because fans go, BioWare made it, I want it, right? Yeah. And not Mass Effect, but Anthem was such a colossal failure, but it was a disappointment more so than a failure.
Yeah.
If you can parse those two, because people wanted it to be good and it wasn't, and they said they were going to fix it, but they didn't. But that's not our fault. It's not our fault as fans, right? And so the next choice we had, and sure, Mass Effect released afterward, but that was a B team rather than the A team. And so the next A team game was this one. Mm-hmm. Right? And everyone expected and hoped and wished and prayed that it would be great. But even though that wasn't the case, that's still technically only the second time. And so we're still at 2 strikes, right? Not 3.
That's fair.
And so I think we're at a place where EA wants to cut the chaff, or from the wheat from the chaff. Yeah. They want to get rid of them, but also they believe that there's a potential for them to be there to fix what they fucked up. And I'm entirely, wholly unconvinced that they can do it.
Yeah.
I want them to. I desperately want them to. But I'm entirely unconvinced. I mean, I will give them the benefit of the doubt, the fact that Dragon Age Veilguard was a very polished experience. It looked good graphically, even though it was not the style that I wanted it to be, but it looked good. much more positive I can talk about this game.
That's about it for the positive. Some people would argue that Mass Effect Andromeda was the first nail, but I think a lot of people honed in on some of the issues with that game, and from my understanding, those were addressed later. But I think overall, that game was probably good. Go ahead.
Yes.
Yeah.
I was just going to say that I did address Andromeda with the fact that that wasn't their A team. That was their B team.
Right. But
and so technically we can't hold that against them, technically speaking.
It's got the BioWare tag on it, so some people would argue with you. I agree, but it does have BioWare's name on it. And I don't think it was a bad game. I still haven't played it. It's on my list. It's one I do want to play because I've heard the story is actually pretty fucking phenomenal for it.
As of right now, it's totally worth playing.
Yeah, I believe that. I imagine at launch, it was probably pretty garbage. I remember seeing some of the pictures of the main character holding pistols backwards, which is like, how the fuck do you do that? How do you
That's
program
like Joe Biden
that?
answering the call with the phone upside down.
How do you do that? How do you program that and not catch it? That's a failure, kind of going back to what we were talking about before the podcast. That's a failure on multiple levels that had to happen at a level that is so unlikely it promotes conspiracy.
I mean, it could be. So we've mentioned this before. I've mentioned this before. Notch from Minecraft has said that game development is so difficult that when you fix the sky, you're gonna fuck up the cows or the grass or whatever.
Sure.
And so that could be one of those like super random ass bugs that they're like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
So I'll give them again. I'm gonna give them a little bit of benefit of the doubt there. But
a tester should have caught that. A tester should have been like, hey, yo, programmer, this guy's holding the gun backwards in this cutscene. Like a tester should have caught that.
Yeah.
But anyways, I digress. I think you're right. I think EA is very scrutinizing of BioWare at this point. We've already seen it. They laid off pretty much everybody that touched anything with Veilguard. And Veilguard, basically, honestly, the moment they changed the name of Veilguard, that signaled all kinds of issues for me. Up until the moment when they changed it from the Dread Wolf to the Veilguard, I was like, okay, now I'm worried.
We got to be honest here. You specifically are, how do you put this? If you are if you are a barbarian that was raised from birth as a barbarian within the tribe, and I was someone who was brought in because my family was killed and you felt sorry for me, so you raised me up from it, I'm not going to quite catch those cues that you would.
Yeah.
And that's the level we're at here.
Yeah, I mean, again, and going back to it, in 2014, I called the name of what the next Dragon Age was going to be.
You really did.
Before they announced it, like 10 years before they announced it. Anyways, but there are two franchises I love deeply with a conviction of passion that borderlines on obsession, and that's the Assassin's Creed franchise, and it was Dragon Age. I go hard on those franchises the way Warhammer fans go crazy on 40k. So they were my two biggest loves, I guess. And it's really kind of heartbreaking that BioWare killed.
Both of them suck.
Fingers crossed Shadows doesn't.
I'm so hopeful. I'm so hopeful for that game, and I'm actually going to put it that way. It's hopeful.
Yes.
But I'm so...
Yep. I'm ready for heartbreak. I know. Yeah, I'm ready for heartbreak. But yeah, I'm hoping we're seeing a rebirth with Assassin's Creed, but I got to be honest, if we never see another Dragon Age game again, I won't be surprised.
No,
and that really fucking sucks, because the world of Thetis is so fucking cool and so deep and rich that it's disappointing.
So it's a strange dichotomy. So like just the other day, I went into a GameStop and I actually yesterday, I think it was, I went into a GameStop and I actually was speaking to the ladies behind the counter. One of them was probably in her 40s, so she probably give a fuck about any video games because she doesn't care. Although it doesn't matter. The other one was like, "Oh, I really liked it," and so I threw in my 2 cents of, you probably liked it because you didn't play any of the other ones, right? And she goes, "Yeah." That's why. Yeah. That's why. Yeah. So I don't nothing against her, nothing whatsoever. She enjoyed the game for what it was, and that's fine.
Yeah.
Yeah, right? That's totally fine. But for people who have loved the franchise since the first? When did that release? Do you remember?
2009.
That's my point. Like 15 years ago ish, right? Give or take a couple of years.
November 3rd, 2009. I fucking nailed it. God damn it! Nice. This franchise.
Nice. So, but that's my point. You've liked it for over 15 years, or rather, close to 15 years.
Yeah.
And so they've ruined what it was. And I did try to make that clear last night when I was talking to people with these two ladies about it. Taking what you love and turning it into something else, why must you change what these people like? And it rips it out of their hands and says, this is mine now. It's almost like that meme of the two stick figures are like, you made this, I made this. You know, like
it's Bethesda with Fallout.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, Fallout, even the Bethesda Fallouts are good. I'll give them that, but they're not what Fallout was. But they made a good product, not Dragon Age Veilguard, not Bioware.
They made a decent product. I still think their story doesn't fit their world in most of their games. The story's too urgent for the idea of exploring the Fallout, but the show was fantastic. I'll give it that. And New Bay is a great game, but that's besides the point. Yeah, it's what creatives do, unfortunately, right? Like, as creative people, it's why Rings of Power sucked, right? Lord of the Rings, Rings of the Power. It's why the new Star Wars
suck. It was an assault.
Okay.
It was an assault.
Tell me how you really feel, Tim. It's why the new Star Wars shows kind of suck. Like, everybody wants to put their own spin on it. And while that's good, because that's the creative process, you take something and you mold it and you shape it. But we have so many glaring issues in these designs, and I think there's a level of ego behind them that makes the creators of that blind to them. Take, for example, here, honestly, the best example contrary to this that has ever existed in media history ever was the original Sonic they showed for the movie. The backlash for the original version of Sonic they showed for the first Sonic the Hedgehog movie was awful. People hated it. It was disgusting. And the developers of that movie went, okay, yeah, the fans hate this. This is going to be a flop if we release this. Let's fix it.
You know my thoughts on that already. I think that was 100% intentional. I have no doubt until it is confirmed one way or the other. I have no doubt that was on purpose.
I don't, 100%. Dude. I honestly believe that was somebody's interpretation of Sonic, and it was so bad. And they actually listened to the fan base who were like, please don't ruin this character. Yep. And it feels to me like not enough people are willing to accept that Bioware owns Dragon Age. It doesn't belong to them. It belongs to the fans.
I'm going to move this. Move this into the realm of, thankfully, there's very little left for modern developers, younger developers, to fuck these days.
Yeah.
There's little for them to come in and destroy. Because if we go back to, let's say, Legend of Dragoon, whatever game, it doesn't matter. Old game is my point.
Yeah.
If they come back to old game X, if they imagine it in a different way, it's so old that's okay.
Yeah.
Even if it turns out terrible, that's okay, because they have no choice but to reimagine in such a different way in today's modern gaming world. But so much has been altered or changed or destroyed or whatever in all of these other franchises that we love that aren't necessarily terribly old.
Yeah.
That I think we're at the point where ultimately either these people are going to fail and be fired, look at Dragon Age, or they're going to succeed in making what we loved amazing again. Final Fantasy VII, the remake series, is probably great, even though that's a mixture of old and new. But those are probably some of the best of the remakes of any game series,
or even wholeheartedly. Yeah,
right? Yeah,
wholeheartedly.
So I think we're at a sort of a turning point for the video game industry as a whole, where most of what we love has already been fucked or fixed, or not fixed, or adapted well, and or they don't have a choice, and so we kind of have to give them a little bit of slack.
You know,
but we'll see what happens.
I just had kind of a weird thought, right? When we were growing up, go back to when we worked at Game Crazy, the people making video games had either been making video games since Nintendo days, 3DO days, or were new and been working on them since PlayStation 2 days, you know?
Yeah.
So those were the golden years of gaming.
Yep.
We talked about how back then you played the same game to death because games didn't release as frequently as they do now. They just
Nowhere
didn't.
near it. Yeah.
So there was a catalog of masterpieces of work: Legacy of Kain, Soul Reaver, Tenchu, Splinter Cell, Legend of Zelda, Final Fantasy, Diablo, Shinobi, Okami, right? Like there was a legacy of games there that were phenomenal that built the foundation for the stories that we have had in the last two generations, let's say PS3 and PS4 generation. Those works inspired these works, and now those works are inspiring the new works, but they're not inspired by their predecessors anymore, if that makes sense. Like, people are being inspired by Naughty Dog because of The Last of Us instead of being inspired by Naughty Dog because of Uncharted or Jack and Daxter or Crash Bandicoot, going back even further, right? Like, I feel like there's a foundation missing from modern game design of where things started and how they found what works. Because if you look at Assassin's Creed, if we assume Shadows is the game that we want it to be, look at the lifespan of Assassin's Creed. The first Assassin's Creed came out and it was groundbreaking in its free climb capabilities. Its parkour, its navigation of terrain was unprecedented in video games. It changed climbing in gaming forever. And then 2 expanded on that, and 3 expanded on that, and 3 had its hiccups. Brotherhood was the best of all of them. That's unarguable. Revelations had its hiccups. They tried to introduce some new things. 4 was amazing. It wasn't a great Assassin's Creed, but you see this arc of it going up, and then it hit a tipping point where it started to go down. And they started to lose what made Assassin's Creed in that franchise great. And potentially with Shadows, we're going, okay, we have this legacy now. Now we can find what works and what made this franchise great in the first place to bring it back. And
so, not to get religious on you here, but to bring it back to a religious principle of you need to build your house on a proper foundation, right?
Sure.
I think effectively what you're saying is games in the PS2 and maybe early PS3 generation, they were building on a phenomenal foundation of games built before them.
Yeah.
Now they're building games on not the foundation, but the framework of the house on that foundation, and therefore it's not working.
I feel like and there's so much more house than there was foundation now. There's so much more house that it's spilling over. But yeah, like that's basically the concept that I'm getting at. Is I'm wondering if that's part of the issue, is that the lessons we learned from the past don't apply to modern gaming, but they still do, because they explain how we got where we are now, right? So I don't know. It's just a thought that I had that I thought was kind of...
As you and I have said, Sven said it right. Make a fucking game that's you want to play, that is fun.
And that's the other side of this too, is how many of the devs that worked on Dragon Age Veilguard knew this was a bad idea, but were being pushed this direction because of boardroom decisions, or a writer that very much would not hear any other feedback and wanted it to be their way because they're the writer. I don't know if that's the case, but how many times do the developers that are building the game have to build something they don't agree with as a quality product? I don't have the numbers for that. I don't even know if that's actually something that happens, but I imagine in any position you're going to have some people who don't agree with the vision, and those people should be heard the same as the people that do agree with the vision. Just my take.
I think you're right, and unfortunately it's I hate to say it's growing pains, but I guess it's modern growing pains, right? And so there's really nothing that can be done other than to just kind of go through it and hope that eventually, given that what we have now isn't really going to change drastically, you know, in the next 10, 15, 20 years, other than the fact that AI is going to do it, that's still games are going to have to be developed, even if it's done by an AI system or whatever. It's still going to have to be developed in a similar way than it is now, and therefore these growing pains need to be gone through to figure out what works and what we like, and what we enjoy, what sells, whatever.
Yeah. Well, speaking about foundations, let's talk about one that's very sandy, volatile, and wants to kill you in the worst ways possible. Dune Awakening is a highly anticipated survival game, and I use survival very lightly here because if you haven't been paying attention, this isn't your normal survival game.
Chances are you haven't been paying attention.
So I want to start this off by saying if you're like me and you are tired of Rust and Ark and I don't know what else, Conan
all sorts of other games,
and Once Human, all of those survival MMORPG games that are very light on, you know, the story part of an RPG, the narrative part, the reason for doing it, the interaction with the world, the lore. Well, you might want to pay attention to Dune Awakening, which I am, because I've been saying since Ark, we need a survival game that has a story front and center. And there's been one or two games that did it. I think The Forest was one that did it, but most of the times games that build a story into their survival game, it doesn't mesh with the survival aspect of the game. Specifically with Forest, your goal is to get off the island. So if your goal is to get off the island and go to all these places to get these items so you can get off the island, what is the purpose of building a base at all? So it's things like that. And Dune Awakening kind of solves that, because what Funcom has said about their goal for this game is they're making the game fit Dune, not Dune fit the game, which it right there immediately tells me everything I need to know. But
it means they give a shit about the property.
It means that they're trying to do Frank Herbert correct with this game. And I gotta be honest, I was trying to rack my brain before this. I can't think of another game that was based off of a book specifically, because this is based specifically off of an alternate universe of the book, not the movies that are out, not the old 1980s something movie by David Lynch. These are specifically built off the universe that Herbert Frank set, or Herbert, oh God, was it Frank? Anyways, the writer of Dune, I
think that's correct.
Yeah, I feel like it's Herbert Frank. I said it, and I was like, is that right? Anyways, they're an alternate universe of the world he created, and the reason they wanted to go that way is because if you can't do an MMO where everybody's Muad'Dib, that just doesn't work. You can't all be Muad'Dib. So they did an alternate version. The story is basically Lady Jessica, Muad'Dib's mother, Paul Atreides' mother, decides to have a daughter and go through with what the Bene Gesserit request of her. And you are not an Atreides. You're not a God, what's the warring house?
Take a step back here.
Yeah.
You said you can't think of another game based on a book.
Yeah. There's the Game of Thrones Telltale games, but arguably that's based off of the show.
But what do you mean by you can't think of another game based on a book? What do you mean? That's good, or that cares,
as a book? Like, is there other video games that have been based off of books? I can't think of one.
I mean, The Witcher is the obvious one, right?
Yeah.
Those are phenomenal video games, but that's because the developers were small developers and they had to prove themselves, and they did such a phenomenal job doing so.
I guess those are based off the books, but they're also built as a sequel to the books. So
yes and no. Yes and no. The fourth one is is more of the sequel, and that one's not even out yet.
No, because even the first Witcher game takes place after the end of the books.
Again, yes and no. But yes.
Okay.
we'll go with more. We'll go with more. Yes.
Okay.
I think the Metro series is probably another good choice.
I didn't realize those were books.
Yep.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
Okay.
It's based on Dmitry Glukovsky. It's based on his book, actually, Metro 2033.
Gotcha.
So maybe look into those.
Yeah.
There's a few others here and there that are not necessarily based on books, but heavily influenced by.
Yeah.
But the point is there's not many.
Yeah.
There's very few.
It's not a rare jump from book to video game. Or it is a rare jump.
It is.
Yeah. That's what I mean. Yes. But so basically the story here is Lady Jessica decides to have a daughter instead of a boy, Paul Atreides, who's never born. Leto never dies, Paul's father. They get the information to find out that there's a coup attempt on them, and so House Atreides doesn't die. For those of you who haven't seen Dune or read the books or seen the David Lynch Dune, spoilers, I guess. Where have you been? So you actually play as a created character. You get to custom create your character with an origin. You get to choose from Bene Gesserit, Swordmaster, or Mentat, which I don't know what the Swordmaster is. I assume that's going to play like Gurney Halleck, which is like Paul's mentor in the books and in the movie, who dies in their universe. And then the Mentat is like a human AI, if I understand at all from the books, as much as I can. They are like tactician level human computers, so to speak. And then the Bene Gesserit are like, you have the voice and command and force powers, basically, kind of thing. So you get to choose one of those as an origin, and then you're sent to Dune as an agent of the Empire. Arrakis is, I guess, the name of the planet, but you're sent to Dune and you crash, and then it's a survival game. And
so I have a question. So there have been games in the past, I don't know, 5 or 6 years that have tried to strike a balance between survival and MMO. And I'll be honest with you, Dune Awakening is a title that I've followed, but not super closely, because I want to be more surprised by it than anything.
Sure.
But the games that have tried to fit that mold have either been survival or MMO, and there's extremely little in between. Dune Awakening looks like that title that might very well strike a balance between survival and MMO in probably not necessarily the best way, but like the absolute middle ground in a good way.
Yes.
If that makes sense.
Yes. Yeah.
I mean, I think New World has probably been the closest that is released so far, but I think this game goes even farther than that.
I think it does too, because the world of Dune kind of on its own, the universe of Dune, I should say, like the world building, kind of already makes it a survival game. Even if you make it an MMO, the world itself makes it a survival game. So it's already kind of baked in, right? Like you've got... They said, the article that I read from PC Gamer, guy got like 7 hours of gameplay with the game, and he, much like me, immediately turns his brain off as soon as somebody says survival MMO. Whenever I hear survival MMO, I'm like, oh, all right, not for me. Yeah. You might as well say card-based deck building game. Same thing. I'm going to sleep.
That's for me on that one. That's definitely nope, done.
Yeah. And next, so this guy is not a fan of those, but even he really enjoyed this game. It's a lot of choice and consequence throughout the game in terms of like the shields that you can wear in Dune are Dune shields. They're not video game shields that give you an overshield and occasionally block bullets or reduce the damage or anything like that. They are 100% you will not take rifle or firearm damage. It stops it, period. But
so it's
good.
I was going to say, it kind of sounds like, I'm trying to remember which game it was, but there was a game that finally introduced, I think it was Valheim, maybe? I think it was Valheim, where when it came to like hunger and needing water and stuff, you don't die by needing those things. You just get a bonus by eating them, and therefore it's worth it, right?
Well, so Dune actually goes further on that, but I'll get to that in a second. It takes those survival metrics that personally I hate and twists them a little bit further even than Valheim. So the overshields, though, they're actual Dune shields. So they block all rifle or all projectile damage altogether. That being said, if you're being shot at by somebody with them, your only option is to get in close and melee fight them. Now, if you're in a situation where you've got two guys shooting at you from a ridge who have those on and another dude charging you with a sword, what the fuck are you going to do? Because now you have to put on your overshield, navigate being shot at by these guys while fighting this guy in single combat, and you can't do anything about the other guys that are shooting at you, like at all. They're just there, right? So I don't know if the shield goes down over time, but the way they phrased it, it kind of sounds like they're exactly what you see in the game or in the books and in the movies, where they just work. They just are, and you have to use melee if you've got them. Going to the survival metric, The only metric this game has is water, because that's the only issue you see throughout all of the media. Paul Atreides never has to worry about eating in the desert. There's never a moment in the movies, in the books, anywhere where there's a concern about food. So obviously food's okay. The only concern here is water. And that's the only meter you have through the entire game. There's no food, there's no sleep, there's no dehydration. Well, there is dehydration, but it's the water thing, right? Like that's the only thing you have, which makes it very streamlined. And again, because it's Dune, it makes sense. That's what that world is. It fits Dune. If you did this with a regular survival game that was just some fantasy nameplate here, it wouldn't be the same, because it wouldn't feel right. Because you're like, okay, well, why is the only thing I have to worry about water? In Dune, you only have to worry about water because that's all they worry about in universe. And they've taken some liberties with Arrakis to allow you better access to water. Medium. Water is still scarce. Like that was the hardest thing I think that they said in the article I was reading, was finding that fine line between the scarcity of water but not hindering your ability to move forward in the game.
To enjoy it, basically. Yeah,
to make it fun but still challenging, was balancing you can literally suck the blood out of your enemies and process it into water in this game. You can, if you find grassy roots, because you can find grass, even though in the books it says, Arrakis is no grass at all. There are some oases you can find throughout the desert. You can suck water from the roots, though it won't give you more than that first little nub of water.
I will forever champion that whenever video game allows me to make a weapon from the blood of my enemies, I extract the iron out of their blood to make a weapon. I will buy your game day one. I don't care what it is. Because there's iron in your blood, and I don't care if I have to kill 1 million fucking enemies to make this weapon. I will buy your game.
Somebody me that choice. Calculated, I think, how many people you would have to kill to get the amount of iron you would need. I think it was in the hundreds of thousands for sure. But yeah, somebody did calculate it. So that is the early stages of this game, though. And what's also really cool is everybody crashes in the same quote unquote zone of the desert, but it's all separate. You're not like in the same spot. It's the same big ass sandbox, literally. So even though there's hundreds, maybe thousands of other people around you, they're pretty scarce and not very common to see. According to what's been said.
Most of the MMOs, when people start, let's just make it simple here. There's a circle of a world, and they pop up randomly on the outskirts of the circle, and they move their way towards the middle. This game says, fuck that. Let's make it a square, and we all pop in the bottom left corner of this, and you have to work your way out from there.
It's more like this big ass zone is the starting zone, and you're gonna pop up wherever the fuck you pop up on that map. They're just gonna shoot a shotgun at the wall, and that's where your fucking start points are. And there's other zones outside of that, but the beginning zone, that's kind of how it works from what I gathered.
I honestly think more games should start that way. There's way too many that are like, let's cater
everybody
to the
starts in the same spot.
No, it's stupid. More games need to be more difficult. More games need to say, you know what, this race is like the Amazons, there's only females. You can't play a male because they either don't exist or they're so rare, etc. and so on.
Hey Tim, can I interest you in a game called Pantheon: Rise of the Fallen?
I have highly considered it. Oh yeah.
Anyways, so Funcom is really doing this game as a labor of love for fans of this franchise and people who really want to see the survival genre expand and grow, because I do. I love the potential that survival games have, but none of them seems to take advantage of it. So I'm really hopeful Dune Awakening is going to be that game. From everything I've read, everything I've seen, it definitely has a very good probability of being that. And Funcom hasn't really explained the end game yet, but what they have said is that it's going to be a very natural and fluid progression from being worried about water to becoming a minor house and trying to navigate and survive the political climate of the universe of Dune. So you're going to go from just, I'm this guy sent here and trying to survive and killing people just to get their blood to make water, to you're running a minor house that maybe has other players, maybe doesn't, who knows, and trying to survive as a lord of your house, which is going to be a really cool transition, like in story as well as in gameplay. So I'm really interested in seeing where this game goes. I can't wait for it to come out. There's MMO progression in skill trees, right? Like you can see it here on screen. They've got skill trees. You've got character customization. Gurney Halleck and a lot of the like iconic classes, because it's an alternate universe, not iconic classes, iconic characters are still in the game and alive in this universe because Muad'Dib, his whole storyline doesn't happen. So you get to interact, even if you know Dune inside and out, even if you've read all the books, consumed all the media, this is a completely unique story that will give you some interesting new insight into beloved characters that we will never get anywhere else ever. And dude, I'm just juiced for it. I am fucking ready for this game. So
it's one that, like I said, I've tried to follow closely enough to have an idea of what's going on, but not too closely to I know everything.
Yeah.
That way I can jump into the game relatively blind. It's so hard.
It's a hard line to walk. Yeah.
Yeah. Given the position that we're in, you know, we talk about games, we look at them every day, we try our best to be as informational as possible when it comes to this, our podcast. But like, I remember back in the day when the only choice to look at video game news was magazines. Mm-hmm. The only choice was magazines. And therefore, I would go into every single game extremely blind. I had pictures, like 6 of them before the game came out. And so, sure, I read a couple of paragraphs, but nowadays, there's so much information that going into any video game, you know what's happening. And like I said, for me, I want to go in blind because I would love to go in with no preconceived notions, whatever those may be.
Yeah, I mean that's fair. Sorry, I ruined that for you for doing a little bit. No,
you're totally fine. Like the game, you didn't really give me enough. Yeah, you know, it makes me more excited than anything. Yeah. But the point is, I want to do that with more games, but straddling that fine line is the hard part.
Yes, absolutely. I tried my best for that with Final Fantasy Rebirth, which is why I want to play that game so bad. I went into a total media blackout for 2 weeks after that game launched and did not look at anything to avoid any kind of spoilers. So, and that was hard because, you know, we do this. I really want to play Dune. I will say that like Conan Exiles, the other survival game from Funcom, was probably one of the best ones I've played in the genre, just flat out. Like I loved Conan Exiles. It just didn't have a reason to keep playing it, but it had the potential to have it. So I'm really happy to see them working on this and building that reason to be doing this. It's also worth it to say that the guy who played the 7 hours and wrote this article on PC Gamer, he didn't build a base at all. He was not into base building. That wasn't his thing. He wanted gear. He wanted loot. He wanted to travel. He wanted to be a nomad and explorer. So he loved that he was able to just throw shit in a cave somewhere, build what he need, and then peace out and just go somewhere else and build what he needs if he needs something over there too. So I love that that's an option. It's not just build a place, come back to your place, go out, get gear, come back to your place, go out, get gear. Like, I love that the option to be a nomad and to just travel around and kill shit and take shit and loot shit is there. Because it's so many survival games just hamper on just like, no, you gotta have a base. You gotta have a base. You gotta have a base.
It's 100% a requirement. You have to go back to your base to protect yourself. You have to go back to your base to sleep. You have to go back to your base to craft things. You have to go back to your base to store things. Yeah. Your base is 100% the foundation of your ability to play the game. Yeah. So yeah, the fact that they're giving you an option, technically speaking.
Yeah. Player agency.
Do that,
yeah, definitely player agency. Yeah. So I'm excited, dude. I don't even know if we have like an actual launch date for the game yet. Still, I think they just said it's which sucks. It really sucks. Want the damn game. It's just still 2025, but that is kind of what we've got tonight for gaming news, main topics. I think we ran a little bit long, but we also had some trouble starting, so I have no idea where we're at in terms of the clock. But Tim, let's go ahead and talk about some quickfire news.
Yeah. So first thing I've got for you guys today is that Microsoft's, I want to say exclusive, but it's definitely going to be releasing elsewhere eventually, Avowed, the review embargo for the game is February 13th, which is actually 5 days before its release on the 18th, which is always a good sign. Not just because the review embargo is several days early, but the reviewers, many big ones anyways, already have the game in their hands. So that's pretty much always a good sign, unless somehow things are changing and developers are giving reviewers the games early in order to change this perspective, which I doubt. That's a good thing, and hopefully the game turns out to be a good one. Next up, I couldn't figure out who this person was. The way the articles were written was so weird, but basically the information here is that after the Sleeping Dogs video games movie adaptation was canceled, there are several people, not just people, but like veterans of the video game as well as stars in the movie industry, are doing their best to gain the rights to this movie so they can make a movie happen.
For Sleeping Dogs?
For Sleeping Dogs.
Wild.
Yeah. They're also trying to get the rights to be able to make a sequel video game. The game is 100% probably the most prolific video game in the past 15 years that people absolutely love. It's one of those sleeper hits, no pun intended, but this game in particular has probably been more talked about than any game I can think of that launched and didn't get a sequel that everybody wants a sequel to. Like anyone who's ever played this game loved it and wants more of it.
I remember having some serious John Woo vibes. Like,
yes.
I never got around to playing it, but I think I own it. Isn't it on PC? I think I own it.
If you haven't played it, I highly suggest you do so because it's so good.
Yeah, I've got to Phantom Edition. It's $2.99 on Steam right now too. It's on 85% sale until the 5th.
We'll buy it.
Yeah,
right now. Moving on, PlayStation decided to remove the much beloved 30th anniversary themes from the PlayStation 5.
It's stupid.
What makes it even more stupid is we're working to make it come back in the future. We're like, what the fuck does that mean? Just don't take it away from us. What the fuck? On X, I actually sort of posed this question, and someone basically told me that there has been some hitching on the PlayStation 5 due to these themes. I have only ever chosen the PlayStation 1 theme, and so I didn't experience them myself, and my understanding is that is the one of the four, because there's PS1, 2, 3, and 4. That is the one of the four that actually works the best. So I have experienced the best experience that exists.
Got it.
And the others cause problems. And so my guess is maybe they're just going to optimize them more. Other people think that they're going to bring them back and make them paid for. Who knows? I honestly don't know what to think, and we'll see what happens. More or less.
Yeah.
Moving on from PlayStation to PlayStation, their exclusive title Beyond Two Souls, although that wasn't made by them, it was made by Niantic, I believe is the developer's names. They made Heavy Rain and such.
No, that's not Niantic.
Niantic. It's Quantic Dream.
That's what it is. Yeah. Right? Is it?
Yeah. No, it's Quantic Dream. I know that for sure. Okay. I just had the wrong name originally.
Yep.
Anyways, the title, which starred Ellen Page, who is now Elliot Page, apparently he has a development studio, and it is making a TV adaptation of this video game. I don't know if it stars them, but I'm worried. Yeah, moving on.
You really struggled with that one, buddy.
I did. Sorry. Moving on. No Man's Sky continues to get phenomenal, massive updates, and this is one of the titles I played on my PSVR 2 today. It is such a different experience in VR. It's insane. I can see myself playing this game for dozens, hundreds of hours easily. But anyways, it got a massive update just a couple of days ago, which adds not just new solar system types, but trillions of new planets, new biome types, gas giants, which are 10 times larger than the previous largest planet in the video game, as well as greater variation in terrain, meaning taller mountains and deeper valleys, which also includes kilometers, which means miles, deep oceans. Like they're doing so much to this game, even still 9 years later, that it's like, why haven't you bought this game? Why haven't you bought and played this game?
I feel personally attacked by that question, and you know what? You know what? Because I just refunded that shit game that is Eternal Strands, and yeah, I said that after talking about how hyped I was for it. You'll have to find out more later. When that refund comes through, No Man's Sky's on sale right now for $24. I'm fucking buying it. We're doing it.
God.
Yes, yeah.
Yes,
it's time.
Please, thank you.
Time.
And I will play it with you. If I have to play it on non-VR mode, I'll play it with you.
Oh, I'll play it in VR. It's got PC VR. I'll play it VR. Yeah, we'll do it.
There you go. I don't know if you can play VR and non-VR together. I would assume you can.
I'm pretty sure you can. You probably can. Yeah, because my viewpoint should not affect you at all.
No, of course not.
Yeah.
Right. Anyways, the next bit of news is actually kind of large. Sony had a major shakeup in their management, which I guess, to be fair, we knew was coming, because when I can't remember his name. The previous CEO stepped down. He was a Guerrilla Games guy. I can't remember his name. But anyways, they put two people in charge of Sony. Hideaki Nashino and Herman Holst. Hideaki Nashino is from Japan. Herman Holst is from the Guerrilla Games developers. And so they were co-managing Sony. Well, they've decided to finalize who's in charge of what. A new name here is Hiroki Totoki. He is now the CEO of Sony as a whole. The whole company. He's in charge of all of the things. Which, thank God, we needed a Japanese guy in charge of a Japanese company. It doesn't make sense to have someone else that's not from your culture in charge. Second in charge, or I guess in charge of Sony Interactive Entertainment, is Hideaki Nashino. He's in charge of all things, basically PlayStation. And Herman Holst, he hasn't been demoted. Some people have tried to word it that way, but effectively he's keeping the position he had before. He does directly report to Nashino, but he's in charge of Studio Business Group, with Sony Studio Business Group. So he's sort of in charge of the gaming development side, but ultimately it's Nashino who makes all of the choices here. And given what we said about Sony earlier with PlayStation and Gran Turismo, I sort of feel like it's almost like Herman Holst is the advisor to Nashino, but Nashino is going to be like, no, I don't like that. We're going to do this instead.
Yeah, he's going to have the final say on it.
Yeah, and I think it's already relatively clear. I mean, 8 of the 14 live service titles that were confirmed in development have been canceled at PlayStation over the last couple of years. I think it's relatively clear that having a Japanese person who knows and loves what Sony is deeply in charge is absolutely what is needed. I mean, there's a lot of people that are not upset or not happy with what PlayStation has done this generation, even though this is their most profitable and successful generation. There's a lot of people that are unhappy with it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hopefully we'll hear and see more of what that means sooner rather than later, but who knows? Can't really say.
You got more?
Go ahead. I've got 1 or 2 more.
Okay.
Silent Hill 2 has topped the remake, of course. Silent Hill 2, the remake, has sold 2 million copies, boosting Konami's record quarterly numbers, not their yearly numbers, but either way, it's good for them nonetheless, and hopefully that means we'll see more from them.
Yeah.
And last I have for you is originally a Nintendo Switch RPG exclusive. Fantasy Life I, The Girl Who Steals Time, has been leaked for PlayStation 4 and 5 by none other than the PlayStation Store itself. Someone made a big oopsie. Right? Because this hasn't been exclusive or announced for PlayStation in any way, and the only title that exists in this franchise is on the 3DS. This is supposed to be a major like console follow-up. That was all we know of is exclusive to the Switch, but clearly that's not the case. It's all but confirmed in this case, and I'm sure we'll hear more about it soon enough.
Cool.
But that's all I got for you.
All right. Well, everyone, we are going to head over to Patreon. But before we do, one last time, I'm going to just touch on the housekeeping stuff. We are going to be here on Twitch until we can get those 100 followers over on Facebook. So please head over to facebook.com/CoinDropVets and give us a follow there so we can move over to that platform. We will be doing our community event stream on the 22nd. And literally tonight, as soon as we're done wrapping on the Patreon side, I will be putting a post on our Facebook for that poll for games for you to vote on. There will be 3 titles. Each of us chose one. You get to vote. We're going to play it on that stream, and you're more than welcome to come hang out with us, play the game with us. Maybe we'll get in the lobby together if we're playing a shooter. Maybe you get to talk shit to us if you kill us. We'll see. Who knows what happens? We'll never know. You might get to stream snipe us. I don't know. We'll see how it goes. So make sure you head over to our Facebook and give us a like over there. We do have a lot of big stuff coming for you guys. I personally have been in talks with a couple of people that are hopefully going to be on the show sometime soon. So hopefully we'll have some good stuff for you guys soon. And
we're excited.
We're very excited. It's going to be a great year for CoinDrop. There's some big stuff in the works that we're hoping to unveil at the end of March for our 2-year anniversary. Can't believe we're already almost there. Almost 100 episodes deep. It's insane. So keep posted. And we will see you there. Patreon.com/CoinDropPod. Extra content over there. Curated weekly upcoming games for you guys over there, and a day early access. So check it out. Tim, I think you got one last word for him.
Yeah. Tell your mom I said hi.
And we'll see you on Arrakis.